To avoid problems, I always pretended I had a husband. I was out shopping with a coworker when I saw a ridiculously expensive dress. The saleswoman latched onto me. "Try it on, it looks incredible on you, it's the last one." I told her the usual. "No thanks, my husband won't let me, and even if I buy it, I'll just have to return it." The next day, a package showed up at the office. I opened it and it was that dress. My coworker's eyes lit up. She grabbed the card inside and read it out loud. "For my dear wife. If you liked it, it has to be yours. You deserve all the beautiful things. Your husband who loves you." I froze. My husband was something I made up. I'd never even had a boyfriend in my life. So where the hell was a husband supposed to come from? I figured Megan was just reading nonsense. So I snatched the card from her, but those 2 lines were right there, written exactly like that. "Lauren, you're always saying your husband won't let you do this, won't let you do that. Wasn't he supposed to be cheap? $5,000 and he didn't even blink." Other coworkers crowded around. "So your husband has that kind of money. Who would have thought, Lauren?" I forced a smile. Not a single word came out. I'd been at that company 3 months and my married woman character was fully built. Everything I didn't want to do, I dodged with, "My husband won't let me." It worked perfectly. No one pushed me to go out after work. No one tried to set me up. No one asked me anything personal. But in real life, I was single and had never even held a man's hand. Where did a husband come from? I peeked at the package again, carefully. The dress was exactly my size. Who sent it? For a second, I felt special and thought maybe someone was in love with me. But I'd only seen that dress once when I was with Megan. She was the only one who knew. I looked at Megan's face without her noticing. Completely normal. I was restless all day. Leaving work, I called the store's customer service. It wasn't a small purchase. The store had to have the buyer's information. The girl went quiet for a few seconds and said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. This order was placed anonymously. The customer requested privacy protection. We can't see the information." Anonymous? What a mystery. I stared at that dress for a long time and then shoved it to the back of the closet. The next day at the office, Megan asked, "Lauren, why didn't you wear the dress?" I wanted to get an eyeful, see what a $5,000 dress looks like on. I brushed it off as best I could. Bringing something that expensive to work is a waste. The truth was, I didn't dare put on something when I had no idea where it came from. Megan didn't push. I focused on my work, but a little later, the receptionist called me. "Lauren, you've got a package." My skin prickled. I had a bad feeling. And yes, when I brought the package back and opened it, inside was a complete set of lipsticks. The card was signed the same way again. "Your husband who loves you," Megan squealed. "Aren't those the ones that just came out? Last week we were talking about them and you said you liked several shades." Yes, and in that moment I'd even said, just to say something, that I felt like buying the whole set, but my husband wouldn't let me. That he always tells me I already have too many lipsticks. Megan shook her head. "He won't let you buy them? Well, now he bought you the entire set." "Lauren, what kind of angel husband did you find?" "Angel." "Yeah, right. Such an angel that I don't even know who he is. What the hell was going on? Was someone actually in love with me? Then he should tell me to my face. Why send gifts in secret and sign them as my husband? My head was spinning. I threw the lipsticks in the drawer. Megan gave me a strange look. "What's wrong with you? Why aren't you happy someone's giving you gifts? Did you fight with your husband?" I smiled uncomfortably. Megan took it as a yes. "That explains why he's been sending you gifts these past few days. Damn. With a husband that generous, why fight with him?" I memorized the tracking number on the box, looked up the online store, and wrote to customer service. They answered the same thing. "This order was placed anonymously. We cannot provide the information. Since when can you buy online anonymously?" I was turning that over in my mind when the receptionist called me again. "Lauren, come get your flowers." Flowers? What flowers? I stood up like a zombie and walked over. The delivery guy was carrying a huge bouquet. "Are you, Miss Lauren?" "These flowers are from your husband." I went rigid. By the time I reacted, the guy was already walking out. I ran after him and yelled for him to wait. "Excuse me, who placed the flower order?" He looked at me like I was crazy. "Your husband." I shook my head. "No, I mean, can I see the account of the person who paid?" He didn't understand, but he still pulled out his phone and showed me the order conversation. Just like I imagined, the other profile was completely blank. "This bouquet is $2,000, not counting delivery, and your husband gave me a $1,000 tip." The guy was smiling so hard his eyes were slits. "Miss Lauren, your husband really loves you. Very generous." I handed the phone back with a stiff hand and forced an equally stiff smile. When I went back inside, all my coworkers were already on top of me. That bouquet is huge. It must have cost thousands. That's nothing. Lauren's husband bought her a $5,000 dress without blinking. Hey, there's a card. What does it say? Only then did I see the card. My love, don't be mad anymore. When I read that full line, my hand shook and I almost dropped the bouquet on the floor. The coworkers erupted. Lauren, with a husband like that, how do you have the heart to fight with him? I'm already crying from envy. I want a husband like that too. He's apologizing so nicely. Just forgive him already. They were all talking at once and I wasn't registering a single word. The only thing I did was look over at Megan. The dress, the lipsticks. Megan was the only one who knew I'd said those things. And even the fight with my husband, I just mentioned it in front of her. And immediately a bouquet showed up telling me not to be mad anymore. What if she realized I don't have a husband and is playing a joke on me? But these things weren't cheap. It didn't add up that she'd spend that much money. I couldn't figure it out. I didn't have a single clue. My head was a mess, so after work I went to see my grandfather. My grandfather had a table full of food ready, and I clung to his arm, acting like a little girl. Suddenly I realized he wasn't wearing his hearing aid. Grandpa, where's your hearing aid? My grandfather is very deaf, so it took him a while to understand me. That thing. Yesterday it fell in the river while I was fishing. It's no big deal. What do you mean, no big deal? I immediately got on the internet to look for hearing aids. Which was the best? Which worked better? Buy me a cheap one? Don't waste the money, he said beside me. That night, I didn't go back to my apartment. I stayed over. Early the next morning, I was woken by knocks at the door. I came out of the room with puffy eyes and saw my grandfather opening it. Outside was a delivery guy. Good morning, can you sign for this? My grandfather looked at the package and froze. Where did you buy this? It got here so fast. The sleep vanished instantly, and I ran over. What the delivery guy was holding was exactly a hearing aid, but I hadn't even placed the order. My whole body broke out in goosebumps. Which one of you is going to sign? The guy repeated. My grandfather was about to sign, but I hurried. I think I made a mistake ordering it. Sorry, I'm going to refuse it. This was for my grandfather. I didn't dare accept it just like that. What if it was dangerous? While I was refusing it, I managed to see a card stuck to the box. I already knew the style. Grandparents deserve the best. Lauren's husband. My hand shook with fear. After sending the delivery guy away, I took a half day from the office and took my grandfather to a physical store to buy him the hearing aid. Then I repeated the same thing about 10 times. Grandpa, if any package arrives these next few days, you tell me immediately. Immediately. Even though he didn't fully understand. He listened to me. That afternoon when I got back to work, I was a wreck. Who was this person? How did they know even my grandfather's address? And worse, the hearing aid thing only my grandfather and I knew about. I searched for it online the night before, and the next morning it was at the door. No matter how many ways I turned it over, it made no sense. Unless I looked down at my phone. What if someone installed something on it and is watching me? I turned it over, and it was the only possibility. So as soon as I left work, I went and bought a new phone, factory reset the old one, and sold it secondhand. Spending 2 big amounts the same day hurt down to my soul. But what finally let me relax was that over the following days, not a single gift arrived. I was just starting to let out a breath when that night I had a weird dream. In the dream, a man I didn't know was talking to me with an offended look. Love, you don't wear the clothes I gave you, you don't use the lipsticks, and you even rejected the hearing aid for your grandfather. Are you tired of me? Or do you just not want gifts anymore? Today is your birthday. How about I just give you money instead? That way you can buy whatever you want. I woke with a jolt. My heart was trying to climb out of my chest. Today really was my birthday. But what kind of idiotic dream was that? Right then, the alarm went off. I slapped my face a few times to shake it off and got up for work. Sitting at my desk, chewing a piece of bread and rushing through a proposal, my phone vibrated. I opened it and my eyes went wide. Units. Tens. Hundreds. Thousands. Tens of thousands. $1 million. Someone had deposited $1 million into my account. I thought it was someone's joke, but when I checked the transaction, there was the extra million. Memo. Love. Happy birthday. What was this? How about I just give you money instead? That way you can buy whatever you want. The words from the dream hit me. I sat frozen in my chair, feeling everything I believed about the world falling apart. Lauren, what's wrong with you? Megan nudged me when she saw me staring without blinking. I flipped the phone face down as fast as I could. Nothing. Nothing. My God, what is happening? Where did this million come from? Don't tell me I actually have a husband and I just don't remember. Hey, Lauren. I saw marked on your desk calendar that today is your birthday. How are you going to celebrate? Megan asked, like it was nothing. I carefully picked up the phone and looked at the balance again. I'd never used anything that husband had sent. Were those things real? For example, could this million actually be spent? I took a deep breath. Girls, today is my birthday. Dinner's on me. My coworkers erupted in shouts. Someone even asked, Lauren, aren't you going to spend it with your husband? I made up the first thing that came to mind. He's away on a business trip. Then I sent the address of a restaurant to the work group. Megan almost fell over. Lauren, you're taking us somewhere that expensive? I smiled and said nothing, but inside I was still nervous. What if that money couldn't be used? It turned out I was worrying for nothing. When they saw me pay a bill of over $15,000 without flinching, my coworkers' jaws dropped. Lauren, what does your husband do? He's filthy rich. You really hit the lottery. It didn't show at all. Okay. Let Lauren make her wish. Megan ordered a cake and put a birthday hat on me. They lit the candles and I closed my eyes. Thinking about everything that had happened those days, an absurd idea slipped in. What if I have a power and everything I wish for comes true? Then I might as well ask for something big. I repeated it silently, inside my head. I want a lot. A lot of money. I opened my eyes and blew out the candles. When I got home that night, after showering and getting into bed, I saw an unread message. I sat up with a jolt, clenched my fists, and opened the message. Another deposit into my account, and the string of numbers was even longer than the mornings. With my heart hammering against my ribs, I started counting the zeros. It was 100 million. Memo. I'm going to give you a lot of money. It was too incredible. I got out of bed and paced the room several times, feeling like I was dreaming. Did I really have the power to make my wishes come true? But this wasn't scientific. When I calmed down a little, something still bothered me. With income that huge, was the police going to investigate me? Doesn't getting rich overnight put you on the radar of dangerous people? Even though it felt really good having money, the truth was I didn't dare touch it. I turned it over and decided that the next day I'd go to the police. If they could trace the origin of the money, perfect. And if they couldn't, at least there would be a record. Like that. I took several deep breaths to calm myself and lay back down, ready to put the phone down and sleep. Suddenly my hand slipped and the gallery opened, and I sat up with a jolt again, because in my gallery, out of nowhere, photos had appeared that I'd never seen. And they were photos of me with a strange man, and that man was identical to the face from the dream. I filled with fear and turned on every light. This was already ghost territory. I had no memory of those photos, and I was sure I didn't know that man, unless they were made with artificial intelligence. But I'd just changed phones. Were they watching the new one too? Whatever it was, I had to go report it. I left the light on all night and didn't dare sleep. As soon as it got light, I took a taxi to the police station. Good morning. Did something happen? It was early, and I looked terrible. The officer on duty went on alert and poured me a glass of water. Officer, I swallowed. Photos of a strange man appeared on my phone, and I also received an enormous amount of money from an unknown source. The officer frowned. Money from an unknown source? How much? 100 million. A million? No, a million plus 100 million. 100 million? The officer jumped in fright and let out a shout. Officer Sam, why are you freaking out like that? What 100 million? Another cop asked from the back, and I went rigid. Officer Sam? I lifted my eyes slowly and looked at his face, and suddenly my head exploded. I knew. I already knew what was happening, and while the emotion rose through my chest, a brutal pain shot through my head. The pain doubled me over. I grabbed the edge of the desk and knocked the glass of water to the floor. What I knew in that second wasn't an explanation. It was one single thing, dry, without decoration. That man had already held my hand before. For a second, I saw something else. Rain hitting a windshield. A man's hand with a thin ring holding mine on top of the gear shift. A voice saying my name slowly, separating the syllables, like he was teaching it to me. Then nothing. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on a bench in the station, with something folded under my head. It was a jacket. It smelled like burnt coffee and bleach. Officer Sam was squatting next to me, with my hand between his. He was pressing my fingers one by one, slowly, like someone counting to make sure none were missing. Lauren, he said. Lauren, look at me. No one said my name like that. Sam. The other officer was standing behind with 2 coffees that no one was going to drink. Sam, what are you doing? He didn't turn. It's her. Sam, it's her, Ryan. I tried to sit up and the room tilted. He held me by the shoulder and with the other hand pulled his wallet from his pants. He opened it clumsily with his thumb and held a photo in front of me. The two of us were in it. I had longer hair and a sweater I didn't recognize. He was hugging me from behind in the doorway of a house with the number 14 in brass. It was the same photo that had appeared in my gallery the night before, but this one was printed, worn at the corners, with a white crease down the middle from being folded and unfolded so many times. Where did you get this? My voice came out rough. I took it. I don't know that house. It's ours. I pulled my hand away from his. I rubbed my face with both palms, and when I passed over my left eyebrow, I felt a small bump, a hard line that had always been there, and that I'd never once in my life asked myself where it came from. Officer, I said. I'm 29 years old. I arrived in Houston 3 months ago. I live alone. I've never been married. Sam stared at me for a long time. Nothing on his face moved, but his jaw started to tremble. You married me 4 years ago, he said, and 2 years ago they handed me a death certificate with your name on it. 4 years. They'd told me I fell, that I hit my head, that I was sick for a few months, and that the rest would settle itself. That was what I repeated when anyone asked. No one ever told me the gap was 4 years. Ryan set the coffees on the desk without a sound and left the room. I stayed looking at the ring Sam wore on his left hand, thin, with the edge worn from so much use, exactly like the one in the rain. And then I remembered something I hadn't remembered in 2 years. When I woke up in that hospital in Corpus Christi, with half my head bandaged and not knowing what month it was, my grandfather was sitting beside the bed, with his hat on his knees, and the first thing he said to me, before hello, before asking how I felt, was this: "Don't ask anything, honey. It's already over." My throat was dry, and I listened to him. I listened to him for 2 years. Sam's phone started vibrating on the desk, spinning on the wood. The screen said, Karen. He flipped it face down without answering. Sam took me to a small room with a metal table and 2 chairs. Ryan closed the door from outside without saying anything. He put a thick folder on the table, with a rubber band around it because it wouldn't close anymore. Open it. I opened it. Inside was me. Me leaving the office. Me on the pier with my grandfather, from behind, pointing at the water. Every photo had a date written by hand in the corner, in blue pen. My mouth went dry. How long have you been doing this? 5 weeks. And before the 5 weeks? Before the 5 weeks, I thought you were buried. He sat across from me and covered his mouth with both hands for a second. October 10th. We were coming from your grandfather's house. I was driving. It was raining. And on the 37, there's a stretch where the asphalt dips and turns into a sheet of water. A truck going the wrong way forced us off. I had my hands under the table, digging my nails into my leg without realizing it. I woke up 3 days later in a hospital in Corpus Christi with a broken collarbone. My mother was standing at the foot of the bed. The first thing she told me was that you never made it to the hospital, that they'd declared you in the ambulance. That's not true. I already know it's not true. He lowered his hands. Now I know. And the funeral? Closed casket. My mother organized everything in 4 days. I signed whatever they put in front of me. I don't remember a single one of those signatures, Lauren. I remember the smell of the flowers and nothing else. I left my family's business, he continued. I joined the police 8 months later. My mother said the grief had driven me crazy. In here, I could ask for things that no one outside was going to give me. What things? Cameras. 5 weeks ago, a traffic camera on Westheimer caught you in profile crossing the street. The system compared it with a photo of you from 4 years ago. I sat and watched that video 80 times before I believed it. And why didn't you just stand in front of me and tell me? He took a moment. Because I talked to a neurologist first, without giving names. He told me that if I showed up suddenly and told you who you were, the most likely thing was that you'd run. If on Monday I'd stood in the doorway of your office and told you I was your husband, what would you have done? Called the police? Exactly. Me. I didn't laugh. Neither did he. So you sent a dress. I sent a dress and lipsticks and flowers and a hearing aid for your grandfather, Sam. I heard myself say it, and it was strange, because it was the first time in my conscious life that I was saying that name. Someone knew what I said in a store. Someone knew what I was searching for online at 11 at night. Someone knew that my grandfather dropped his hearing aid in the river. Say it with the real words. He didn't look down. I have to give you that. I was watching you, again. I was watching you, he repeated. I put a man outside your grandfather's house for 3 weeks. He saw him fishing on Thursday and reported that something fell in the water. I didn't read your phone. I read your life from a van parked on the corner. I stood up. The chair made a horrible noise against the floor. And the photos that appeared in my gallery? I changed phones. I sold it. Our shared account is still tied to your number. I never closed it. I uploaded that album on Tuesday. When you put your number in the new phone, the album downloaded by itself. It wasn't a ghost. It was an account I didn't cancel because canceling it felt like burying you again. I sat down. My legs weren't helping anymore. The money, I said, is yours. Nobody has $100 million, Sam. My last name does. He said it without any pleasure. Bennett Group. When we got married, a fund was opened in your name. When they declared you dead, that fund went back under my mother's control. I moved it back on your birthday. I made a wish that night, I said, and felt stupid. I asked for a lot of money and it arrived. I don't read minds. He almost laughed, but it didn't come out. I just know when your birthday is. I stayed quiet a long time. Inside that room, the only sound was the hum of the lamp. There was only one question that mattered to me, and it was costing me to say it. Sam, my grandfather. Did he know? Sam opened his mouth and closed it again. And I had my answer. I drove to my grandfather's house without putting on music. He was on the porch cleaning a fishing rod with a rag, with the new hearing aid in his ear. That was the worst part. That he was wearing the hearing aid. That this time he was going to hear everything. Grandpa. He lifted his face and smiled at me. Honey, didn't you go to work? 2 years ago in the hospital in Corpus Christi. Who came to see you? His face shut down slowly. He lowered the rod and set the rag on top of it, neatly, like that was the important thing. Let's go inside. No, answer me here. Lauren, who came to see you? He grabbed the railing to stand and it cost him more than it usually does. A lady, it came out rough, with short white hair. She had 2 lawyers and a folder. I ran into her in the hallway before you woke up. What did she say to you? She showed me a paper with your name. His voice broke there and he had to breathe twice, with your name and one word underneath. Deceased, sealed, signed by a doctor. She told me that paper already existed and that no one was going to be able to undo it, and that if I went around saying you were alive, they had ways to prove that the one who was crazy was me. And she told me one more thing. What thing? That her son had already signed you dead with his own hand, and that if I took you to him, you were going to show up knocking on the door of a man who had already buried you. I had to grab the door frame. And you believed her. You were 27 years old and you didn't even remember your own phone number, he said. You asked me for water and didn't know what the glass was called. I was 68 years old with a mortgaged house. I believed her because I was alone and because I was scared, honey. I'm not going to invent anything else for you. We went inside. He came out of his room with a shoebox that I'd seen my whole life on top of the wardrobe. He put it on the table and sat with his hands between his knees. Inside was a copy of a death certificate with my full name, and underneath, folded in 4, a check. I took it out. The paper was yellow at the edges. It was made out to my grandfather, for an amount he never in his life would have put together working, and signed with a tight, elegant handwriting, Karen Bennett. I turned it over. He never cashed it. Monday I got to the office at 7:30 because I couldn't stand sitting in my apartment anymore. Megan arrived at 9 with 2 coffees and set one on my desk without asking. You look rough, she said. I slept badly. You've been sleeping badly for 4 days. She sat on the edge of my desk. Lauren, if your husband is doing something to you, you tell me. I lifted my face. She was serious. No gossip, no shining eyes. And I, who 3 weeks earlier was convinced she was the one playing with the gifts, felt a nasty heat in my stomach. It's not that, I told her. I swear it's not that. Okay. She stood up. But the day it is that, you tell me. At 11:20, the receptionist called me. Lauren, a lady is looking for you. She says she's your mother-in-law. The air left me. I closed the laptop, straightened my blazer, and walked over with stiff legs. She was standing by the window, her back to me, looking at the parking lot. Short white hair, neatly styled, navy blue suit, bag hanging from her forearm. She turned before I spoke, like she'd heard me breathe. Lauren, she smiled. You look well, better than I expected. I took her into the small conference room and closed the door. She sat first, took out a cloth handkerchief and wiped a little spot on the table before putting her hands there, all with the calm of someone who has never had to hurry for anyone. What a pleasant office, she said. And what is it you do here? You didn't come to ask me that. No, she crossed her hands. I came to tell you that my son is not well. I stayed quiet. Sam went 2 years without sleeping. He left a company that carried his last name to ride in a patrol car. He dropped 12 kilos. I picked him up off the bathroom floor of my house one night, Lauren, with these hands. She opened them and closed them again, and he was just starting to be calm. And now you appear. I didn't appear. I was always here. Oh, honey. She said it with a sweetness that turned my stomach. What was there was a woman with no memory in a house by a river. That's not the same thing. I had my hands under the table again. I was digging my nails into my palms. She opened her bag. She took out a thick white card and slid it across the table to the middle. It had a number written by hand. What is this? What's there for you if you leave Houston this week? She didn't even lower her voice. You sign a document where you commit to not looking for Sam. You go to Corpus or Austin or wherever you want. You take your grandfather, you buy him a house by the water so he can fish in peace, and we all live. I already have money. You have money from my son, which is different. She smiled again. And that money can be discussed. This can't. I looked at the card. I didn't touch it. I had a lot of things in my throat. I felt like throwing the chair at her. I felt like asking her how she slept. But out of everything inside me, only one question came out, and it came out quietly. Who signed my death certificate? Karen didn't even blink. A doctor, she said. Like all of them, I was alive. You were in a hospital in Corpus Christi with your head open and unable to say your name. The first days, no one knew if you were going to wake up or how. She adjusted the jacket on her shoulder. I made decisions. Someone had to make them. My son was sedated with a broken collarbone, and your grandfather was in the hallway crying, not knowing what paper to sign. You weren't there, Lauren. You didn't see that. I was the one in the bed. Exactly. She stood up. You were a body and someone had to be the person. She hung the bag on her forearm again. Slowly. At the door she stopped and turned, and there she wasn't smiling anymore. The card stays there until Friday. After that, it stops being an offer. When she left, I sat for about 2 minutes. Then I got up, walked to the bathroom, went into the last stall, and threw up Megan's coffee. I washed my face. I stared at the mirror. I had the marks of my nails in both palms, 4 red lines in each one. Wednesday. Something worse happened. I went out to buy food at the place on the corner, and when I turned around with the tray in my hands, there was a woman sitting at my table, blonde, about my age, in a bone-colored dress and sandals that cost more than my rent. Hi, Lauren. I'm Ashley. I stood there with the tray. Sit down, please. It's just 5 minutes. I sat because if I didn't sit, everything was going to fall. She put her left hand on the table, flat, with her fingers open. She was wearing a ring with a stone that caught all the light from the window. Sam and I have been together a year, she said. Karen introduced us. He never talked about you, you know, not once. I found out about you 9 days ago. I don't know what you want me to say. I don't want you to say anything. She tucked her hair behind her ear. I just want you to understand one thing. I took care of him for 2 years. I took him out to dinner when he didn't want to eat. I answered the phone at 3 a.m. You showed up on Monday and you're already in his car. I'm not in his car. I saw you. She smiled with her mouth closed. And it's fine, really. I'm just going to tell you one thing, and I'm telling you with affection, because I like you. He already let you go once without a fight. When they told him, he didn't go verify anything. He signed. I felt the sweat run down my back. Now no accident is needed, she said, and stood up. All that's needed is for his mother to ask him nicely. She left. I stared at that tray for 10 minutes and didn't eat a single fry. In the afternoon, Megan covered 2 meetings for me and told the boss I had a migraine. She didn't ask me anything. She just left a yellow sticky note on the screen that said, "Go home. I'll close up." I got to my building at 7. There was a folded paper taped to my door with packing tape. I opened it in the hallway, standing, without turning on the light. The building had changed owners the previous Friday. The property now belonged to a company with a 3-letter name I'd never heard in my life. All month-to-month contracts were terminated. 30 days to vacate. I went down to the parking lot and sat in the car with the keys in my hand without putting them in. Then I took out my phone and called Sam. He answered on the first ring, like he'd been sitting with the phone in his hand. I need the full name of the doctor who signed that paper, I told him, and I need to know which hospital they took me to first. On the other end, there was a short silence. Are you okay? No. Get me the names. We drove to Corpus Christi on Saturday at 5 a.m. Sam didn't put on music and I didn't ask him to. About halfway there, we passed the stretch of the 37 where the asphalt dips. He didn't say anything, but he let go of the wheel with his right hand and put it on his leg, and left it there until we came out of the curve. At the hospital, they sent us to a basement room that smelled like old paper and wet carpet. The girl in records had a mug that said, "They still don't pay me enough." I asked for my file with my ID in my hand. She came back with a thin folder. "There's very little here," she told me. "Admission, 11 days, and transfer." "Transfer where?" "To a private clinic in Houston. Signed, October 21st. Sam stood up from the chair. "I was here 11 days. Uh-huh. And who authorized that transfer?" She flipped the page and put it in front of me with her finger on the signature. It wasn't my grandfather. It was a name I didn't know, with the word representative underneath, and next to it a stamp from a Houston law firm. And above, in the patient names section, it didn't say Lauren. It said Ruiz Mary E. My whole body went cold. "This isn't me," I said. The girl put on her glasses. "Yes, it is you. The file number is the same and the dates match." She moved the page. "You came in as a Jane Doe because you arrived without identification, and after 3 days someone came and gave you a name, just not that one." Sam gripped the edge of the desk. 11 days, he said. "I called here. I called this hospital from my bed, Lauren. I asked for Lauren Renteria, and I was on the 3rd floor with another name," I told him. No one spoke for about 10 seconds. Then I asked for the other thing, the certificate. The girl went into the county system and printed it. I grabbed it before anyone else. My full name, written correctly, the date of the accident, and underneath, the signature of Dr. Alan Whitaker. But there was one thing that didn't add up. The time. The certificate said I died at 11:40 at night on October 10th. And my admission sheet, the one in the folder, said I went into surgery at 12:45 in the morning on the 11th. They operated on me an hour after they declared me dead, I said out loud. Sam took a photo of both pages. His hand was shaking. Dr. Whitaker no longer worked there. He surrendered his license voluntarily 14 months after the accident and went to Naples, Florida. The girl told us like someone sharing gossip without knowing what she was handing over. But there was another name on the pages, a nurse who signed the shifts for those 11 days, Denise Parker. We found her in a 2-story house in North Houston with a new truck in the driveway. She opened the door with the chain on. "Yes, Denise Parker, right? My name is Lauren Renteria." The color drained from her face so fast I almost felt sorry for her. She started to close the door. "I didn't put my foot in. I didn't yell. I didn't come to threaten you," I told the crack. "I came because you took care of me for 11 days. I came to tell you that I woke up. The door stayed there, neither closed nor open. I can't talk to you. I know." I took out a card with my number and slipped it through the crack. It fell on her doormat. "If someday you want to talk, that's my number. And if you don't want to, that's fine too." I turned around and left. Sam caught up with me on the sidewalk. "That's it? Just that? Just that. Lauren, that woman knows everything. I know she knows everything." I opened the car door. That's why I'm not going to corner her. Cornered people call a lawyer. People who sleep badly call the one on the card. She called me at 11:40 at night. She didn't say hello. She said, "Are you recording?" "No." "Okay," she breathed. "I didn't kill you. The only thing I did was not say anything. Who paid you?" "No one paid me." Her voice cracked a little. "They paid my floor supervisor. They changed my shift and told me the patient in 312 had a legal matter and not to ask questions. And I had 2 kids and a mortgage. And I didn't ask. And the house? The house is my husband's." She laughed without humor. "Go ahead. Ask the prosecutor that when the time comes. Are you going to testify?" She took so long I thought she'd hung up. "If a subpoena comes, yes," she said. "I'm not going to raise my hand on my own. But if a paper comes, I'll say what I saw. I've gone 2 years without sleeping well, because of 312. Monday we went to see attorney Norma Salas in an office above a pharmacy with the air conditioner dripping into a bucket. She laid the pages in a row and looked at them for 15 minutes without speaking. Then she took off her glasses. "Let's take it piece by piece. The criminal side I don't handle. That goes to the county prosecutor. Forgery of a public document and the admission under another name. The doctor and whoever signed as representative are going to fall there. And Karen? We get Karen from another angle." She pulled out another page, one Sam had sent her on Sunday. "This is what really matters. The Bennett Family Trust has a board of 3 votes. One is Samuel's, one is Samuel's spouse's, and one is the mother's. Karen was left with 2 out of 3 the day you died on paper." I stared at that page. So it wasn't to protect her son. It might have been that too. People do things for 2 reasons at once, but the effect is that. You alive? She loses control of the entire trust, and she's not going to let that go out of goodwill. Sam's jaw was clenched so tight the muscle showed. There's something else, he said. I went to the funeral home. Norma lifted her face. There's no record that any body under that name ever came in. None. There was a service. There were flowers. There were people. But no one ever arrived inside that box. I thought I was going to feel something horrible. What I felt was like when they take off a bandage that's been tight for days. Attorney, I said. One thing. I'm not going to post this anywhere. I'm not going to talk to any journalist. I'm not going to send anything to anyone. I'm not going to make a scandal. Norma looked at me over her glasses. Why not? Because a scandal is forgotten in 2 weeks and she has the means to wait it out. I gathered the pages and squared them against the table. I want paper. I want a judge. I want something she can't answer with a smile. Norma picked up her pen and started writing. Then it's going to take us 6 months and it's going to hurt, she said. Can you handle it? I can handle it. Karen didn't answer the lawsuit. Karen did something else. On the Tuesday of the 3rd week, someone knocked on the door of my grandfather's house. I was there because since the eviction, I'd moved in with him. It was a woman with a badge hanging around her neck. Adult Protective Services. Miss Lauren Renteria? That's me. We received a report about Mr. Renteria. I need to make a visit. A report of what? Financial exploitation of an elderly adult and neglect. It says the gentleman lives in inadequate conditions, with untreated hearing problems, and that a relative who received an unexplained amount of money is making decisions for him. I had to lean against the door frame. That frame again. Come in, I told her. My grandfather was in the kitchen with his coffee. He stood up and wiped his hands on his pants. Good morning, he said, loud and clear, and pulled out a chair for her. The woman was there 2 hours. She asked him everything. What day it was, who handled his money, if he ate hot food, if he could climb the stairs. My grandfather answered everything, with the hearing aid in, without asking her to repeat a single question. I cash my check the 3rd Wednesday, he told her. I take it out at the branch on the avenue with Mr. Beto, who's been there 14 years. My granddaughter doesn't have signature authority on that account. Ask Mr. Beto. When the woman stood up to leave, she turned to look at me. Miss, do you know who filed the report? Yes. Reports are anonymous, she said. And then, lower. But this one was very well written. With dates, with amounts, with your bank account number. People who report real neglect don't write like that. She left. I sat on the porch steps. My grandfather came out, sat down next to me with effort, and put his arm around me. How does it feel? Like throwing up. There you go. He laughed without humor. That's exactly what I felt 2 years ago in that hallway. That afternoon, the bank locked both my accounts. Unusual activity report. I didn't cry there. I got to the car, closed the door, and screamed once, with both hands on the wheel, so hard I went hoarse. Then I wiped my face and called Norma. It started, I told her. It started, she answered, completely calm. Save me the letter from the bank. Everything that comes to you, even if it looks like trash, you save for me. She thinks she's squeezing you. What she's doing is signing. Thursday, Ashley called me. I answered on the porch with my free hand under my leg so it would stop shaking. Hi, Lauren. I heard about your apartment. What do you want? Nothing. They say you went to live with your grandpa. That doesn't look good, you know? A 29-year-old woman with no place of her own, living off the old man with a fortune she can't explain. I had my eyes closed, listening with every bit of attention I had. Ashley, did you know? Know what? About the hospital. She laughed, a little laugh, from someone who'd already lost the patience to pretend. Oh, for God's sake. Nobody did anything to you. You were in a room with your head bandaged and you weren't going to wake up. Karen made a family decision and you're turning it into a movie. What room? Silence. What room, Ashley? I don't know what room. 312, I said. How do you know the number of my room? She hung up. I lowered the phone. The recording was still running. 4 minutes and 12 seconds. I called Sam. I recorded a call without telling the other person. Does that work or did I just screw myself? In Texas, it's enough that one of the two parties knows it's being recorded, he said. It works. Send it to me right now. She said the room number. Sam, I never said the room number. On the other end, I heard him stand up from a chair. Friday, what even Norma didn't expect happened. Denise Parker called me. They offered me a job, she said without greeting. In Scottsdale, clinic administration, double the salary I make and moving expenses paid. And I've been in nursing 22 years and no one has ever offered me anything, she breathed. They told me I had to leave in 3 weeks, before October. The hearing was October 14th. Denise, I already know. Her voice trembled. I already know what it is. They told me with a lot of politeness and a lot of smiling. Same as the other time. She stayed quiet so long, I heard a dog barking on the other end. Send me that paper, she said. The subpoena. Send it to my house. In my name, with my address written correctly. Let it arrive Monday. Denise, if you testify, they're going to— Miss Renteria, she interrupted me. I bathed you for 11 days. I combed your hair with my hands because they couldn't move you. And then I signed a transfer sheet with a name that wasn't yours. And I went home to eat dinner. She swallowed. Send me the paper. That night my grandfather came into the kitchen with the shoebox. He took out the folded check and held it out to me. Take this to your attorney. Grandpa, if I turn this in, they're going to say you accepted money. I didn't accept it. He sat down. That's the point, honey. I had it 2 years on top of the wardrobe, without cashing it, without tearing it. You know why I didn't tear it? No, because I was waiting for the day it would be useful for something. He pushed the paper with 2 fingers until it touched my hand. The day arrived. Norma put it in the file on Monday, with the certificate, the surgery sheet, the transfer under the name Mary Ruiz, Denise Parker's statement, and 4 minutes and 12 seconds of audio. The hearing was set for October 14th at 9 in the morning. Courtroom 4B of the Harris County building, the same courtroom where my death certificate had been validated 2 years earlier. Norma told me while she organized folders. Oh, and one more thing, she added. The criminal side already moved. The prosecutor subpoenaed Dr. Whitaker. He came back from Florida on Thursday. That night, my phone rang with a number I didn't have saved. Lauren. It was her, and this time there was no sweetness. Withdraw everything, Karen said. Tomorrow, you have until 5 in the afternoon. No. Listen to me carefully, little girl. Her voice came out thick, an old smoker's voice, a voice I didn't know she had. I've been sitting at that table for 40 years. I buried my husband. I bailed out my brother-in-law and I signed the bankruptcy of my own brother. What do you think you're going to do to me with an old check and a nurse with a mortgage? I was standing in my grandfather's kitchen, barefoot, with the cold tile under my feet, and I realized something while I listened to her. Nothing on me was shaking. Ma'am, I told her, we'll see each other on the 14th, and I hung up on her. On October 14th, I put on a gray suit I bought on sale 3 years ago. I put it on purpose. The $5,000 dress was still at the back of the closet, and that's where it was going to stay that day. I wasn't going to walk into that courtroom dressed in anything they'd given me. Courtroom 4B has a low ceiling and lights that hum. It smells like carpet and paper. Karen arrived at 5 to 9 with 3 lawyers. She sat straight, with the bag on her knees. She didn't look at me once the whole morning. That told me more than if she'd yelled at me. Ashley didn't come in. She stayed on the bench in the hallway with her phone in her hand. Norma spoke for 19 minutes without raising her voice, without adjectives. She set the pages down one by one like someone arranging silverware. The certificate with the time of my death. The surgery sheet with the time of my operation, 1 hour later. The transfer signed by a representative I never named, under the name Mary Ruiz. The uncashed check with Karen Bennett's signature and the date, 3 days after my supposed burial. And the audio of 4 minutes and 12 seconds where a woman who never set foot in that hospital knew the number of my room. Denise Parker testified at 10:20. Her hands were shaking, and even so, she didn't get a single date wrong. When they asked her why she'd stayed silent for 2 years, she said, because I was scared. And because no one asked me until she knocked on my door and didn't threaten me. Whitaker testified at 11. He'd made a deal with the prosecutor 2 weeks earlier. He said the name of the person who asked him for the certificate. He said the amount, and he said the day. He didn't look at me once. At 12:15, the judge read his decision. Annulment of the death registration, restoration of my civil status from the original date, instruction to the county to correct the records and referral of the entire file to the district attorney for the criminal side, including Mrs. Karen Bennett for instigation. I was sitting with my hands on my knees, and I didn't cry. What I felt was in my stomach, like when you step down a step you didn't see. I was alive on paper. Then came the other part, which Norma had explained to me 3 times, and I didn't fully understand until it happened. With my civil status restored, the Bennett Trust Board went back to its original 3 votes, Sam's, mine, and hers, 2 against 1. That same afternoon, in an office with a view of downtown, Sam and I signed the removal of Karen Bennett as administrator of her family's trust. 40 years sitting at that table, and it was over in the time it takes to sign 2 pages. She was there. She wanted to be there. She sat on the other side with her hands crossed and waited. When we finished, she stood up and adjusted the bag on her forearm, with that calm of hers that no longer gave me anything. "You did it well," she told me. "I didn't do it well. I did it completely." She looked at me a second longer. Then she walked to the door. I caught up with her in the hallway. "Mrs. Bennett." She stopped. I took the check out of my suit pocket. I'd been carrying it folded in four since the morning, with the yellow edge and the ink intact. I put it in her hand. "My grandfather never cashed it," I told her. 2 years on top of a wardrobe. You offered that to a man who was crying in a hallway, and he preferred to stay poor." Karen looked down at the paper. For the first time since I'd known her, she had nothing to answer. "That's what you will never be able to buy," I told her, "and that's why you lost." I turned around and walked. Ashley stood up from the bench when she saw her come out. She took 2 steps toward her with that face of someone waiting for instructions. Karen walked right past. She didn't even see her. She got into the elevator alone, and the doors closed with Ashley still standing there, her arm half raised. I went down the stairs. Whitaker and the lawyer who signed as my representative were charged in January. Karen's case is still open, and it's going to take years. Norma says she probably won't set foot in a cell, that people like that rarely do. It doesn't matter to me as much as I thought it would. What does matter to me is this. My name is written correctly in the county register, with both dates right, and neither of them says deceased. With Sam, we didn't go back that day. Or that month. I told him in the courthouse parking lot, with the car door open. "I don't remember you. I know. I'm not going to move in with you because a paper says we're married. I didn't marry you. A woman I don't know married you." He stared at the ground a long time. "So what do I do?" he asked. "The same thing anyone does." I closed the door. "Start." And that's what he did. He invited me to dinner in December, and I said no. He invited me again in January. In February, I said yes, to a taco place on Long Point where the table wobbled, and he put a folded napkin under the leg without saying anything, like he'd done it 1,000 times. That's where I laughed for the first time in months. It didn't bring my memory back. The doctors say it probably never will, and I've gotten used to that. There are photos of a wedding I didn't attend. There's a house with the number 14 in brass that we sold because I couldn't sleep there. But there are also new things that are mine and not the other Laurens. Megan was the first person I told everything to. Complete, one Thursday night with 2 beers. When I finished, she stayed quiet for about a minute and then said, "And here I was thinking you just had a rich husband." Then she wiped her face with her sleeve and hugged me so hard she knocked the air out of me. I still work. I still get in at 8. I could not do it, and I still do, because I like having something that's mine that no one signed for me. In April, we bought the house by the river, my grandfather and I. It's not big. It has 3 bedrooms, a porch that creaks, and a wooden pier we had to rebuild completely. The deed is in my name, and his, in that order, because he insisted. The day we signed, I took the dress out of the back of the closet and put it on to go to dinner with my grandfather. He put on his good shirt. We ordered shrimp, and he spilled sauce on his sleeve and laughed like a kid. Today, I drive a white truck down Highway 37, along the same stretch where they lost me, and I park in front of the river house that is in my name. My grandfather fishes on the pier, and he hears me when I talk to him. I don't do it so anyone finds out. I do it because there will never again be a paper that says who I am without my signature underneath.